Well, just 2 weeks to go. Foundations have been laid in Chapter 2 of the Tour de France warm-up races. Who's going to be amongst the pantheon of riders, though? Maybe having done the Giro Tour double. Tadej Pogacar hasn't been racing this month, but we've seen his rivals and this week his teammates as well. It's a packed Gruppetto this week. We have Dani Rowe, we have Cape Mason, we've got mountain biking as well as Tour de France, Olympics, loads coming up. So let's get straight to it. As I said, loads of racing this week, as many as 4 different stage races to cover. So let's get to it and head to Switzerland.
Farmer's son Yves Lampaert had the first Tour de Suisse leader's jersey, and he'd hold on to it for a second day as Brian Cocard harvested the biggest victory of his road career. 24 hours later, Thibaut Nees got the better of Stevie Williams in Rochlicon, and Alberto Bettiol was the new leader. Stage 4 would be a day full of action, drama and poignant emotion. First of all, race leader Bettiol suffered some nasty abrasions before the race went up the Gotthard Pass. Bahrain Victorious's Torsten Tren was away with a lead of over 2 minutes, and he was looking good when Adam Yates attacked from the peloton of GC favourites. Nobody was initially able to go with him. Skjelmose, Bernal and Almeida were in the chasing group. Despite Yates looking brilliant and putting time into his rivals on the way to taking the yellow jersey, Tren remained strong enough to emerge with the stage. The first win of his career on the bike after an extremely difficult couple of years off it. Remember, the Norwegian returned last season after having been diagnosed with cancer. This mountain had also played an important role in the late Gino Mäder's only win at his home Tour de Suisse. So how fitting it should be, a year on from his tragic death, that a member of his own team should ride for Gino and win for Gino. Thursday saw another day, another mountain stage, but a bad start for EF Education Easy Post. Both Bettiol and Olympic champion Richard Carapaz were both unfit to start. The riders present took on 3 mountains, with a summit finish at Cari in Italian-speaking Switzerland, seeing Yates extend his lead with a stage win. This time his teammate Almeida finished second. Day 6 was shortened by the weather, not just once, but twice. The end result was a 42-kilometre stage. Yes, just 42 kilometres with a mountaintop finish, a rarity in professional cycling. Not a time trial this one, I promise. Despite the interrupted route, normal racing service continued as UAE Emirates reversed their 1-2 from the day before. This time, João Almeida took the individual success. Adam Yates played wingman, although the British rider remained in the overall lead. More déjà vu at the weekend, a 3rd day in a row with UAE Emirates and their terrible twosome at it again. This time on a loop stage around UCI HQ in Aigle and ending up on high at neighbouring Villars-sur-Roland. That a popular destination in recent years in Swiss racing, not just at the Tour de Suisse, but also at the Tour de Romandie. Roles were reversed here. It was Yates' turn to win the stage, Almeida finishing alongside him. Everyone was racing for themselves and against the clock on the 8th and final stage. Skjelmose had set the fastest time in the time trial and had edged out Bernal for the final place on the GC podium. But with 31 seconds between them before the mountain TT test, could Almeida overhaul his own teammate Yates for the overall win? He certainly gave it a good go, up at the time checks on the way up the hill, but not by enough. The Portuguese won the stage by 8 seconds in the end, Yates holding on for the GC victory. What an incredible last 4 days of the race for UAE Team Emirates. 4 successive wins, 4 1-2 finishes in a row, utter domination as Adam Yates put his early season injury issues to the back of everyone's mind and added another 1-week stage race to his very impressive collection. João Almeida finished at 22 seconds, with Matthias Skjelmose at just over 3 minutes. Tadej Pogacar hauled up high at altitude and prepping would have been purring in his lair. His own domestiques teaching the competition a lesson 2 weeks before the start of the Tour de France. There was plenty more racing elsewhere this week, with one of the oldest stage races in the world, the Belgium Tour, beginning with a time trial. Søren Varensholt was fastest, and he took the first leader's jersey from another strong field hoping to build to the Tour de France. Tim Merlier's 45th career win was his first ever bit of success at his own national tour. Business-like stuff in Knokke-Heist, putting away Olaf Koy and Jasper Philipsen. Now, Philipsen had only ridden a single stage race this season to this point, a well-deserved break after his superb Classics campaign, and training camps have been the order of the day since finishing second to his teammate Van der Poel in the Roubaix Velodrome. He was back to winning ways on stage 3, taking another sprint day, with Varensholt still in the overall lead. The hills of Wallonia arrived and saw Alex Aramburu's first win in almost 2 years, before a menu of laps around Brussels was devoured by Merlier, his second success over Philipsen during the course of the week. Norwegian former World Under-23 time trial champion Varensholt demonstrated his readiness for a lap of France by holding on to the overall lead, the biggest GC prize of his career to date. The Tour of Slovenia was celebrating its 30th birthday. The opening day in one of cycling's several small nations that pack a large punch ended up in a bunch sprint fight won by Dylan Groenewegen. Phil Bauhaus hit back the following day in another battle of the sprinters. Stage 3 went the way of Giovanni Aleotti, the Italian returning after a 2-week break following the Giro to take his first bit of personal success in just under 2 years. That solo victory in Nova Gorica saw him take the GC lead. A mountaintop finish was next up, and Pello Bilbao showed his prep was finally paying off after a stop-start few weeks with illness. Aleotti was just a few seconds behind, however, holding on to the leader's jersey going into the final day to Nove Mesto. Would a 12-second lead be good enough, however? Bilbao is always a threat, and bonus seconds are often a big part of the action in Slovenia. Over the course of the 156-kilometre deciding stage, the Basque rider managed to snatch 3 and the Italian leader 1. Both finishing in the main bunch as Ben Healy showed off his Irish national champion's jersey a week before it's up for grabs once more. The EF Education First Rider's first win of the season coming just at the right time, a fortnight before his expected Tour debut. Giovanni Aleotti's 10-second win in the GC over Pello Bilbao was the most important of the 25-year-old's 3 overall wins to date. Young Giulio Pellizzari continued to impress in third, whilst veteran Domenico Pozzovivo was a superb fourth, his best GC effort of what is his last competitive year. There was yet more Italian success as Vittoria Guazzini won the opening stage of the Tour Féminin International des Pyrénées. The 3-day race in the south of France had its opening stage finish in Lourdes. No divine intervention needed for the home team FDJ Suisse, as their star took her second win of the season. Faster riders might have been saying a prayer or two after the stage, however, as day 2 was scheduled to be ridden up the slopes of the mighty Col d'Aubisque. The squad from just over the border in the Spanish Basque Country was the strongest. Usua Ostolaza, a 26-year-old from the Laboral Cucha team, took a memorable first career win. She backed that up by adding the overall GC prize a day later, with the final stage won by Australian Josie Talbot of Team Cofidis. Just over half a minute the margin of the overall victory for Ostolaza, with Valentina Cavala in second and the winner's teammate Yorani Blanco taking the third spot on the podium.
There was also Women's World Tour action at the Tour de Suisse. That race is still ongoing, so I'll review it in next week's Gruppetto. I promised 2 big guests this week on the Gruppetto, so let's get to our first chat. It's with our very own Dani Rowe. Well, I'm delighted to be joined by Dani Rowe. Dani, I know you've been really busy recently. Let's get straight to it because I was a really interested spectator in the return of the Women's Tour. You were there, you saw it. How did it go down? Because before the pandemic and before we had to sadly say goodbye to it, this was one of the biggest races in the world.
Yeah, it was. And British racing is always so good. The whole peloton love coming to the UK to race. The crowds are always brilliant. It's always a really well organised race. And chapeau to British cycling, really, because obviously Sweet Spot had financial difficulty. We didn't see an addition in 2023. And Rod Ellingworth, the race director, and British Cycling put this race together in about 10 weeks. And it was a fantastic race. 4 days of brilliant racing, something for everyone. And yeah, a worthy winner in the end with our world champion, Lotte Kopecky.
Well, the new organisation sounds good. We know that Rod Ellingworth has a wealth of experience. Lovely to see him back in the sport and back at doing what he does best, being around races. We had a great winner, as you said, in Lotte Kopecky. Not always we get to see her racing for GC, so that was something different. In terms of where the race is going, I mean, I guess maybe I'm being a bit greedy already here, but are we going to see it get bigger yet?
I think so. I mean, they've secured Lloyds Bank, which is a huge sponsor for the race. And they've committed for the next 5 years, I believe, which is fantastic and means that the race can just grow year on year. They've also got some other really great headline sponsors. And I think now under British Cycling, they hold that legacy and they really want to inspire the next generation. They got together with all the local schools, and especially on Thursday and Friday, it was so great to see all the school children out on the side of the road screaming as the women raced by, and the women really got involved as well, throwing their bottles to the side of the road. And we saw so many amazing images after the race where Lotte Kopecky herself gave so much of her time to the youngsters, and you never know, they might be the next world champions. And if we can inspire young children racing, that's exactly what we want to do. Lizzie Deignan as well said herself that, you know, some of these children and some of these people watching on the side of the road might have never seen a professional bike race before. And that's what British cycling and British racing do really well. So I think it can grow. I think we can have more days of racing. Before it was a 6-day race. This year it was only a 4-day race. But again, it offered up something for everyone. The routes were brilliant. I believe Andy Hawes was the route director, so he did a brilliant job there. And the weather shone brightly until that last day, didn't it? And that was pretty brutal. But again, it just gives us spectators a real spectacle, doesn't it? So yeah, I'd love to see it go from strength to strength. And I don't think there's any reason why not, with the infrastructure that we've now got in place and the way that they did it with so little time. Again, only 10 weeks to put all that together was really impressive.
Where do you think it's going to sit within the rest of the races? Because the Canada's changed quite a lot, hasn't it, since we last had the Women's Tour of Britain? Of course, you've now got the sort of legacy Grand Tour races that are very long races and have turned up some tremendous racing in the last year. The Giro's carried on in amongst that. Where do you think the Tour of Britain can fit then?
I think this is a great problem to have. I think personally, women's racing's never been in a better position than it is now. And you mentioned these Grand Tours, which are developing year upon year. And it's just been announced that there's going to be additional days in the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift in 2025, which is big news for women's cycling. But I do think there is a place for the Lloyds Bank Tour of Britain Women. And I think it sort of lies after that sort of classics campaign season, almost in the lead into our Grand Tours of the season. If you compare it to the men's races, you know, maybe something like the Dauphiné, that kind of warm-up race for the Tour, that's where this sort of race could lie. And I think it really will hold value in that sort of place in the calendar. We've just also had that really unfortunate news that Ride London won't be happening next year because the UCI changed the date and the London City can't accommodate with that date. So unfortunately that won't be happening, which again, it's a huge blow for British racing because it was another spectacle, wasn't it? Lorena Wiebes taking that hat-trick and some really great racing along the way. And again, a legacy from London 2012. And a race that's very personal to my heart, of course, after the London Olympics, and something that, again, I know that the riders love racing. It's so iconic to be able to race, especially on that final day on the Mall, alongside Buckingham Palace, to be able to do that. It's almost a once in a lifetime opportunity. We heard from Lizzie Deignan actually after the race, and she was talking about how she spoke to her teammates. She's become a big leader and captain within that team. And she said to the girls, you know, really try and take this in. It's, you know, it's hard to do when you're in the thick of a bike race, but really try and embrace this because, you know, when does anyone ever get the opportunity to race through these streets of London, when normally we have thousands and thousands of tourists lined up to see these sites. So it's a pretty special occasion and race. So real shame for the calendar to lose that one.
What do you think happened there? Because, I mean, how can you have such a big breakdown in communication? Do we know where the problem arose from, which side might have committed the error? Because surely it was a good event for the UCI. They will have enjoyed it. As you mentioned, brilliant crowds, something that British racing always brings anyway. And it seemed to be popular with the riders.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I'm not actually sure, to be totally honest with you. I think it was a case of the UCI putting the calendar together, and then maybe there was just no place where it lies currently. And with Ride London, it's a huge spectacle, isn't it? It's not just that one Ride London professional bike race. It's a huge festival of cycling where thousands of people come together and have the opportunity to be able to enjoy bike riding, whether that's in the 100-mile sportif or the closed roads family ride that happens the morning of the bike race. So I think it was just a case of those dates not matching up, unfortunately.
Well, you mentioned London 2012 there. Did I see the other day on Instagram that you paid a bit of an unexpected visit to a certain gold-coloured postbox?
It wasn't unexpected. I'm currently staying down at my parents' house in Southampton in Hamble, where I'm from. And we actually got asked where we wanted that post box to be. So wow. Southampton is the city that I'm from, but Hamble is a little village on the outskirts of Southampton, and that's where my real heart lies. So I chose for the post box to be painted there, and it's a lovely little village of cobbled streets and really picturesque. And when I'm here, I've got a running route that I do. It's only around 5 kilometers, and it passes that gold post box. And I thought, I'll just take a little video, because it always puts a smile on my face when I run past. And then I realized how long ago it was, and I couldn't believe it. It's just absolutely flown past. But yeah, I mean, amazing memories. And that was just something that was obviously unexpected, but a really nice touch, I believe, from the Olympics and the British team to do that for the gold medalists, because originally it was only going to be for a year, and they were going to paint the post boxes back red, but they decided to leave them forever, I hope. So yeah, it's lovely to see.
Cast your mind back, if you can, then have a think. London 2012, you're approaching the Olympic Games. There's 1 month, a little bit more to go now. Where was the mindset? What were the athletes going there, track or roll, whatever sport? What's going through their heads right now?
I mean, it's a huge selection time for the Olympics, and going back to the Tour of Britain women, the racing that we saw from the British team was really, really strong, especially Anna Henderson, who was on her second comeback of the season, let's not forget, after 2 collarbone breaks, and she finished second on general classification. But in commentary, we were talking about how it was quite a hard dynamic, because they came together as a British team, so they were racing as the Great Britain national team, but also in the back of their minds would have been this selection, of course, for the road race, and some riders obviously opting for the track. Eleanor Barker I'm talking about here. So there's that kind of slight feeling in the back of your mind where, of course, you're going to be racing as a team, but you also want to show that you're in great shape to be selected for the Olympics. So it's a really hard time, actually, because you're trying to be in the best possible shape you can be, but also still building to that form that you want to, have that pinnacle form on the date of whatever race it is that you're targeting. And then these nerves are building. You're trying to do everything right on and off the bike. For us in London 2012, it was a little bit of a different dynamic, because I was going for the team pursuit. So we didn't even get told who was riding the first round until a week before. So it's always in the back of your mind. You're being scrutinised in every single training session that you're doing. You're looking to see how you've done compared to the other girls, but also trying to ride as the best team you can, which is quite a strange dynamic. And of course, for us, it was a home Olympics, so everything was riding on it. It was such a huge opportunity for us, a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it's going to be the same for the French athletes this year in Paris. But yeah, a wonderful time as well. So yeah, I mean, great memories, and something that I'm never, ever going to forget, but nerve-wracking for sure in the lead up.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned France, because I believe you've got a little bit of news for us.
Yes, I am going to be joining the breakaway and the commentary team for the men's Tour de France, and I cannot wait. I feel so lucky to have this opportunity in the biggest bike race. Let's not beat around the bush. It is the biggest stage, isn't it, for cycling? And yeah, I'm going to be part of the best team in the business, and I can't wait. I'm really excited, and what a race we're going to have on our hands. I've been meticulously looking at the stages, and it looks absolutely brutal. I actually read an interview from Mark Cavendish who said it's the toughest Tour de France route that he's ever seen, which, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to get stuck in already.
Well, it's going to be absolutely brilliant, as you say, those first few days in Italy. What else are we looking forward to? The GC battle, of course. We've seen that Wout van Aert has put on Instagram and Strava, I think, this week, a little message for everybody. What was it? Something like the killer bees are coming out of hibernation. So the training must be going well for him and Jonas Vingegaard. There's Christophe Laporte, Matteo Jorgensen, Sepp Kuss, Tish Benoot. They've all been joined and are working with each other now at altitude. And well, UAE Team Emirates, they've done their talking on the road, haven't they? We saw Tadej Pogacar at the Giro D'Italia, and this week it's been the Adam Yates and Joao Almeida show at the Tour de Suisse. If the domestiques are going that well, then everyone else has got to be a bit worried, haven't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like we're going to have a race of these two teams that you mentioned. The performance of Joao Almeida and Adam Yates in the Tour de Suisse is, I think, really opened the eyes to everyone. And Tadej Pogacar said that Adam Yates is going to be his right-hand man at the Tour. And if I was part of any other team, I think I'd be pretty worried about that kind of trio now with Almeida as well, and how they're going to be racing. It's going to be a spectacle, isn't it? But yeah, those killer bees are going to be back, which says to us that maybe Jonas Vingegaard will be on the start line, which of course we are all really hoping to see. And I believe that if he is, that means he's 100% ready. He's going to be so up for this. There's a lot of talk, isn't there, as to what's his form going to be like after coming back from that terrible crash in the Basque Country earlier this season. But I think the character that he is, and listening to what his coach has been saying, if he's on that start line, he is going to be ready. And things are obviously going well. There are at altitude training now, of course, and they'll be coming down from altitude soon to fine-tune that form. But like you say, it's going to be a really great race.
What do we think about Roglic and Evenepoel? Because we saw them in action at the Dauphiné. They seem to be at slightly different stages, but again, Evenepoel looked great winning the time trial. Then we saw him riding rather maturely, I thought, looking after himself as much as he could in the mountains. With Roglic, he looked like he was back. And then we saw that little bit of weakness on the last day. It's intriguing, isn't it?
It is. It's really intriguing because there'll be, a meticulous plan as to the build of their form. And let's not forget, we're not just talking about the first week of the Tour. It is brutal. It can't be won in the first week. It could be lost in the first week. So you have to come into it with great form, of course, but there will still be that build through 3 weeks of racing. So even though it's 2 weeks away, it's actually 5 weeks till that last week of the Tour where it all matters. So I think that would have been planned, of course, by these teams. Roglic, yeah, we did see a little bit of weakness, didn't we, in that final stage, and it came down to 8 seconds in the end, so it was very close. But again, I think he will build through the Tour, and that's what he's shown as his strength in the past. Evenepoel as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't think personally that he will win the Tour de France. I'm going to put myself on the line there. But again, I think, he's going to be fighting for a podium spot. Especially with these team dynamics of Visma Lease Bike and UAE Team Emirates as well. They're just a force to be reckoned with. And when you've got riders within the team that could be contenders in their own right as domestiques, I think, that's going to be really hard to contend with.
Well, no Evenepoel on the podium for you. Will we be seeing Mark Cavendish on the podium as a stage winner one more time though?
I would love to see him on, crossing that finish line first on one of the stages. He's going for Eddie Merckx's record, isn't he? 35 stage wins, I believe, off the top of my head. That's why he didn't retire last year, isn't it? He's stopped his retirement, he's carried on, and the Tour is everything. He's had a good season so far. He has had a couple of wins, and the team will be around him, and that will be their full focus coming into the Tour. So personally as a British fan, a huge fan of Mark Cavendish, I would love to see it. It's going to be hard. We've got so many good sprinters, haven't we? Jasper Philipsen, Mads Pedersen, Tim Millia. It's going to be really hotly contested on those sprint stages that we've got throughout the Tour. But I would love to see Mark Cavendish take the win. I mean, I think it would be very, very powerful as well for him to, then end his career. What a high for Mark Cavendish to finish on winning another stage of the Tour de France.
Well, Sir Mark Cavendish as it this week as well. Congratulations, Mark.
I did see that, Sir Mark Cavendish. We're going to have to make sure we keep referring to him as Sir Mark Cavendish, aren't we? Which will take a little bit of getting used to, but yeah, truly deserved.
Well, Dani, thanks very much for your company. We cannot wait to have you with us in the commentary box and, of course, on the breakaway. That's something for all of you viewers to look forward to. All of that expertise coming up in, what is it now? 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks to go until the Tour de France by the time you're watching this. Next week on the Gruppetto, I'll be running through all of that tremendous route that Dani was talking about, so make sure you tune in now. For now, thanks, Dani. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Absolutely fascinating stuff from Dani Rowe there. Great to hear the stories about the post box and everything. The Olympics coming up, of course, great memories for her. But first of all, you'll be hearing her and seeing her on the breakaway and, of course, on our commentary coverage of the Tour de France. Loads more cycling on, and mountain biking is a big discipline that we've had live for you on Eurosport and Discovery Plus in the last year and a half or so. Again, with those games coming up in Paris, I thought it would be a good time to catch up with Kate Mason, who's presenting it for us. Well, it's the morning after the weekend before, and it's been a big weekend in mountain biking, something about which I know very little. So thankfully, Kate Mason is along to help me. Kate, welcome to the Gruppetto.
Oh, thank you so much. This is so cool, Rob. Can't believe I'm getting to mix it with the Rob Hatch fans.
Well, we feel the same about you lot, to be honest. We feel the same about you lot. It's the second year for you. I know last year we spoke in the winter at the Champions League and you said you'd really enjoyed coming into mountain biking last year. Please tell me it's not been like the difficult second album or anything like that. You've had a good time, haven't you?
No, I think this is the I can't think of an example of the better second album. But
it's a bit like Morning Glory after Definitely Maybe.
Yeah,
that's controversial in itself, I guess,
I don't know if we want the people to start on us about that, but yes, it's some equivalent of that. Because the second year has been a lot, there's a lot of kind of boring technical stuff that means that the second year has been a lot easier in terms of the broadcast quality, things like me being able to hear all the people who are in the gallery in London. So we're remote, we're on site everywhere talking so that we can be in amongst the action and talk to the riders. But the people who are kind of doing all the hard work, Rob, you know what I'm on about. They're in the gallery, they're in London. So there's been lots of technical stuff that's made that a lot easier this year. And then just in terms of, you know what it's like, you're getting to know people just personally and professionally for the first year. So now we're a part of the community. I think in the first year, there'd been a change from who was doing it previously. And you know what people are like, they're a bit suspicious of change, generally speaking, especially in sport. So this year, everyone knows us. All the riders are very friendly, and all the stuff, just from my perspective, about how the broadcast fits together is it's on it.
Cycling people suspicious of change. I've never heard that before. I don't know where you're coming from, Kate. Anyway, moving swiftly on before the comment section fills. What's been going on this last few weeks? Because I know it's a really busy time, isn't it? Because you've had qualification, Olympics obviously coming up. What is it now? Just over a month away now to the Olympic Games.
Yes. Yeah, so I guess most of the people who are watching the Gruppetto would be, well, predominantly Rob Hatch fans, I expect, like I am, but also road fans, right? So just so you understand the kind of way that mountain bike fits together, there's effectively two World Cups going. Well, there's a whole load of different kinds of mountain bike action that we show on Eurosport, but the two that we present with the full bells and whistles in the studio that I'm presenting are the cross country and the downhill. So the downhill is, people throwing themselves down mountains and
that scares me to death.
Looking incredible, yeah. And then the cross country is what you'll see in the Olympics. So cross country, Olympic distance, and then there's a short version of that which we do on the Fridays, where it's like a shorter loop. People go faster. It's all full gas, and that's basically it. And then the cross country Olympics, more like tactical, slightly more interesting courses usually. So they're two quite different sports, to be honest. And this weekend we've just had a triple header. So the short track on the Friday, the downhill on the Saturday, and then the cross country Olympic on the Sunday. So the Sunday one is the one you'll see at the Olympics. So pretty much all of the Olympic spots have been decided. There was some really good, speaking dispassionately, because obviously these are people's hopes and dreams on the line here, but there's been really good competition for a lot of the teams. So the Swiss men's team was particularly fierce, the competition, because they've just, the depth in their mountain bike squad is just unbelievable. Nino Schurter, the greatest mountain bike rider ever, is one of their picks. And then Matthias Flukinger is the other guy who's going to go. But they've got all these other amazing people, including this dude, Filippo Colombo, who we know from Road, who didn't get picked. And even though he's fought his whole way back from that horrible injury that he had, was it last year? Yeah. And he's done so well to get back, and he didn't make the team. And then this weekend he finished up the field. So it really feels like every time he's starting, he's excuse me, I'm gonna be your actual pick here. Can I just say? And then in the downhill, Rob, it's just the coolest. So in the women's race, Tanni Seagrave, British rider, she won. She has had, there's obviously a lot of injuries in downhill mountain biking because they're throwing themselves at high speeds down incredibly treacherous routes. And Tanni Seagrave, she has been through a lot with injury. She had a serious concussion, which people are learning so much about concussion still. And it seems as though, this is something I've been reading about recently, it seems to affect women in a different way, as with so many things that we're learning about at the moment. It affects women in a different way to men. But in the past, there was the kind of, I don't know if this is too much detail, but there was the male default assumption. So people just assumed, doctors would assume that, if it happens this way for men, it happens the same for women. And that's not true. So Tanni Seagrave's been suffering with concussion. She's been gradually getting her way back, and she hadn't won a World Cup for 4 years. And she won, and just the scenes in the pits were, it was amazing. In the bowl at the end, just, it's a family team that she rides with. So her dad was there, just throwing champagne everywhere and celebrating. And then, it was cute. And in the men's, Amaury Piron, another guy he broke his back and was out all of last season. We had him actually on our coverage as a pundit, so he was a big friend of the show. And he kept just with the most stunning rides, the American guy who was in the hot seat all the way until Piron made his final run, had put together this unbelievable ride. It looked like he was going to win it. Everyone's like, where are you going to find more seconds here? This is, that was a brilliant ride. And then down comes Piron, 4 seconds up. It was unbelievably slick. And he came down and just, we're very lucky being in the bowl when everyone's celebrating, and you just get the emotion coming off of these guys, who he broke his back, he thought he might not ever be doing it again, and there he is on top of the world. So that was very special actually on Saturday, Rob. It was yeah.
You talk about the bowl there at the bottom. You love football. I'm a big football fan. Can you liken it to a bit of a natural stadium being down there? The cheer and the elation, the sort of explosion of noise when you see one of these times beaten or somebody take the lead, something like that? Yeah,
Downhill mountain bike fans are loud. They are, they bring, there's this thing about bringing chainsaws to all of the events. So to make really loud, basically just really loud noise, and it's, where we're doing it, sometimes it's almost impossible for me to hear what anybody. So Tani, when she was doing her interview, they come into the studio and we're asking her questions, and she's sort of like, yeah, no, I don't really know what you're saying. I'm just gonna say a few things, because it is just so loud. And of course, unlike football, there's not seats. You're just all kind of crowded around. So it's really the most fun, most exciting crowds I've probably seen since we've been working on this were at Leger last year. There's just something very special about that part of the world as related to mountain biking. French guy wins the race and everybody just piled in. And there's flares, you wouldn't be allowed to do it in a football stadium. We are more Larry than football fans, but in a good way. That's what I'm telling you.
Brilliant. All right then, I must know where I'm going to tune in, because what's coming up next on the road to the Olympics? Of course, we've got a bit on with the Tour de France and what have you coming up, but surely we can find a bit of time to join you.
Got a bit on.
What's coming up?
Just a small matter of Tour de France. Yeah, sure, quite chilled. What we're doing next weekend, we're in Crans-Montana. Crans is how I'm going to be pronouncing it, in Switzerland. So Nino Schurter, I've already been telling you all about the Swiss. That's a big deal. Nino Schurter this weekend, he won his 36th World Cup, which is mad. That's far more than anyone's ever won. And so off we go to Switzerland, see what he could do. Oh, by the way, I must tell you also about, there's this amazing girl in the women's race in the cross country, Candice Lil, Rob.
Right.
She's a South African woman who has been riding mountain bikes she's 32 now, and she's a privateer. She doesn't have a big factory team supporting her, and she made the podium for the first time. We were just sitting there with Enrique Avancini, who's a former Brazilian rider, who's one of our pundits. Yeah, we were just sitting there watching it, just absolute goosebumps. Because just to think of somebody going around the world, you're not making lots of money, and you haven't, as a mountain biker, you haven't got the support of this team. You've got your husband and your coach, and that's pretty much it. And it's a long way to go to get, these are not places that are really convenient that you can rock up to, on your Saturday off. And just to see her do that at 32, and she's going to the Olympics. She went to the 2012 Olympics, Rob, finished last. She could be on the podium this time.
Wow.
Wouldn't that be incredible? Yeah. So it makes me feel like we should take up an Olympic sport and see what we can do.
Probably from this side of the camera, I'd say I probably wouldn't do very well. I'd give you a bit more hope than me, but that's something we've got just over 4 years, so let's get going.
Come on.
Right then, just over 4 weeks to the Olympic Games.
Oh, sorry, I've ruined your link. I was supposed to tell you.
What have you done? Go on, tell me, please.
I was just going to say Discovery Plus. It's all the same. It's all the same as how you watch all the stuff that you watch with you. So yeah, Discovery Plus app, Eurosport, all the normal places. Just look out for the UCI Mountain Bike World Cup.
Perfect. Well, I'll be there next week. Look forward to joining you then, and I hope, now that you've been on, you've introduced yourself to us all, you've told us a little bit about how it works. I'm intrigued to learn more. Let's hope the audience is too. Promise me you'll come back maybe in a month's time or so?
I would love that, Rob. Anytime.
Brilliant.
Anytime I can join the fans of Rob Hatch, I'll be there.
Dearie me. All right, we'll leave it enough for there, shall we? Thanks, Kate. Well, that is chapter 2 of the big Tour de France build-up done and dusted. We've seen all of the favourites in action over the last month or so, barring Jonas Vingegaard. He's the last question mark still there. We'll find out whether he's racing in the next week or so. And in the next week, yes, there's even more cycling for you to watch again. It's National Championships time, that special time of the year where we'll see riders from all over the world trying to see if they can wear their national jerseys for the next 12 months again. We've got Great Britain, Italy, Spain and France. Check your schedules wherever you're watching for that. That will be on Eurosport and Discovery Plus. Plus, there's also live mountain bike action too. We're off to Crans-Montana in Switzerland for that, all on Eurosport and Discovery Plus. Kate, who you've heard from, will be alongside all of the team for that action. And for us, well, we will be back in a week's time with one final big Gruppetto Tour de France preview. We'll go through the route, we'll have some very special guests. Remember to join us, and remember to give us a like, share and subscribe. Comments down below in the bottom too. From here, from Gijón, beautiful northern Spain, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week as we continue to count down to the Tour.